Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello there, a very happy new year once again to all Manchester United followers, especially those on All for United. I am Grant, welcome to another show. We're about to preview the Wolves game coming up on the 3rd of January. We'll also be reviewing our last win of 2021 against Burnley in the company of Andrew Wall. Andrew, how are you doing? Happy New Year to yourself.
I'm all good. Happy New Year to you too.
Great to have you. Down below me, we have Reese. Reese, a happy year to you as well.
Thanks very much. Happy New Year to you.
And to the far right, we have Stu Woolley. Stu, a happy year to you, fella.
Happy New Year, guys.
It's been a very interesting year for Manchester United Football Club, and I'm sure so many people tuning in will want to give their opinions. Please remember to like and subscribe. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other social media platforms, and also like and subscribe for all for United content. Gents, 2021, let's be honest, was a pretty rotten year to be a Manchester United fan. But Andrew, to finish the year with a victory at home to Burnley, green shoots for optimism going into 2022.
Yeah, definitely. The Burnley game was a much better performance than the one at Newcastle. I mean, that first half of Newcastle was like, you couldn't get any worse. It was like the players they either knew what the plan was and didn't know what to do, or they just didn't want to do what was told of them. But the Burnley game was much better. It seemed like we were more on the front foot, and even that first chance that Ronaldo had, obviously he missed it, but we just set the tone. We was a bit more on the front foot. Mctomin was getting more forward as well, and as you say, and I think once we got that first goal, it just settled all the players down a bit, and then I think it just gave them a little bit of confidence as well. Let's say scored the two more goals, and then a bit disappointed we conceded that one before half time. We just let the Burnley player just run at us and let Aaron Lennon just get in, and I think he hit it through Harry Maguire, who's having a bit of an inconsistent form at the moment. But in the second half, the energy levels we just weren't there, and we didn't really need to push it. Burnley were not really threatening us. I mean, if they had a score, we might have had to just get one more, but all in all, it was a good victory and something to take into the Wolves game on Monday night.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, just to get 3 points and get back on the bike after the pretty disappointing performance, maybe not the result was as well, but certainly the performance at St James's Park was certainly not good enough just to get back on the bike with 3 points. No matter what the circumstances was, I think was the ultimate goal from the game against Burnley. Reece, what was your thoughts on the game just very quickly? I mean, we'll talk about individual performances in a moment, but just to get 3 points to end a pretty rotten year, something to take into 2022 has got to be a positive, you would think.
I think at the end of the day, I don't think we were going to necessarily get a great performance, but the result at the end is what actually mattered. There's still a lot of work to be done. Ralph's got a fair bit of work to do. There's still a lot of, to quote Roy Keane, there's still a lot of bluffers in this team that you can't necessarily trust. But at the end of the day, at least they put in a performance that got us the 3 points. Andrew's right. The first attempt by Ronaldo definitely set the tone. Although, to be fair, I don't know why he went for placing it. He should have just put his laces through it. He would have actually scored. But then again, he's the greatest goal scorer of all time. He is going to miss. He is going to have opportune times when he misses. It happens. It's normal. But after that, realistically, Burnley did settle a bit. They had a few chances. They didn't take them. We did. I wouldn't say we completely dominated and controlled the game, but in times where we had to control the game, we did, and we got 3 goals out of it. So it says it all, really. The only thing is it was a little bit more individual in that game where we had to rely on a few just to pick up the team in moments. But it's starting to look like a team is starting to actually form rather than relying on individuals. It looks like we are starting to finally gel as a team. I think some players need to get their egos in check. And I think once the egos do get in check, you will see United play as a team rather than relying on X amount of individuals trying to decide the game in moments.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is important that Manchester United come together as a team in 2022. And we maybe saw certainly some of the foundations of that being laid again, you'd hope, in the Burnley performance. I mean, Stu, going to come to you next. I mean, since Ralf Rangnick has come in from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's yet to taste defeat. That's got to be a bit of a positive going into 2022, isn't it? Because, when Solskjaer left, a lot of United fans were certainly discontent. There was a lot of frustration. There was not a lot of great performances and quality out there. It feels like the ship has been steadied, albeit maybe not as spectacularly as people want to see so far yet.
Yeah, 100%. The funny thing is, I'm not really sure if Ollie had stayed, that we wouldn't be picking these results up anyway that we've seen. I'm not really sure Raniak's changed too much. I think if you ever look at the pattern of the play, I think Reece is right about egos in the team. We've got certain players that seem to think they're bigger than the club, and it's a real problem for us. Raniak was never going to be able to come in and start ironing over anything at the minute because he's just not had the training. And the issues we've had with COVID, etc. Kind of the same opinion with Andrew with regards to the game, except I felt Chris Wood on any given day would have absolutely buried that. He was in, well, crikey, he had the orbit to himself, didn't he? And I couldn't believe he missed it. I think his problem was he couldn't believe he got so much room because 9 out of 10 times he put that away. I think Burnley gave a good account of themselves, actually. And I said on the review show that when you come up against a team like Burnley, you're looking at 11 workmen. They don't have to be the greatest footballers on the planet. They don't have to be the most skillful footballers on the planet. What you have is a collective. And when you've got a couple of centre-halves that are willing to really stick their necks in and around, it does make it more difficult for you. So Reece is right. A win's a win. We've claimed 3 points. I think the Wolves match will be critical now because we can ascend up the league slowly but surely. And I actually think our results at Tottenham and Chelsea are probably going to determine where we actually finish in the top 4 race. It's really that tight this year. So Raniak's done okay. He's got a lot to do. There's no two ways about it. But we'll talk about squads later on, so it'll be quite interesting to see what things are. But yeah, so far steady. It's a bit of a pebble roll, isn't it? It's not a boulder roll; it's a pebble roll.
I think. Sorry, go on.
Sorry about cutting you in there, Grant. I was actually going to say on the back of what Stu said about Chris Wood, he's absolutely spot on, because you look at Chris Wood, like, he has the habit of scoring in very tight, pressurised moments where he's done it to Arsenal, he's done it to Liverpool. Like, if it's tight pressure moments, he does it. But against United, you're right. It was as if he was playing a team in terms of defensive quality, similar level, where he was thinking, "I'm going to get all the time in the world. I should be scoring this." Well, to be fair, you didn't. Like, cheers, mate. But you're right. Like, not if that had been a pressurized moment, you probably would have put like odds on Chris Wood to bury that bottom corner, which he's a habit of. He's a bottom corner specialist. Like, it seems to be like his thing.
Yeah, no, I think that you kind of have to say that United did ride their luck at times in the game. But, I mean, just want to talk about the team lineup when you saw the team lineup, and I'm going to come to Andrew on this one first. Well, I must admit, when I saw the team lineup, I was kind of rubbing my hands a little bit because I know when we previewed the Burnley show, we wanted to see Ronaldo and Cavani partnered up front. We got our wish. On the whole, a lot of people wanted to see that. We saw Scott McTominay start in midfield. I think a lot of people were kind of surprised that he passed the fitness test to play. And ultimately, he played very well in the game, scored a very good goal. But it just felt like there was a little bit of more dynamism from Manchester United. Don't you agree, Andrew?
Yeah, so we was on the front foot, and like, in terms of McTominay, he was felt like he was getting further forward, but also when we was having to defend, he was slotting back in the midfield with Matic. I mean, I think Matic was also playing a key role as well, because he'd be like pointing out to the players, "Well, you get in these positions, I will." Matic was the one that seemed to be looking for the passes forward. It was like sometimes when like Harry Maguire, like against Newcastle, and even sometimes against Burnley, he was coming out and like looking for the passes, just be quicker, maybe more quicker about it. Whereas Matic was like, "I'm going to get us on the front foot," and then as McTominay was getting further forward, he was helping out with the forwards as well. Yeah, it was a bit more dynamism, but also there was a few moments in the defence where, like I say, Maguire had his one moment where the ball was, I think, it'd been lofted up in the air and it was just coming down. And I don't know whether it was just the floodlights had just got in his eyes, and I just thought he just didn't know what to do, and then he just let it bounce, and then Burnley maybe got through. So St. Maguire's he's just in a bit of inconsistent form at the moment. I don't know whether it's worth dropping him to the bench, but then what sign does that send out to Maguire? And it's like he almost needs to play his way back to form. So, but yeah, you're right, more dynamism. So hopefully, we can take that further. I mean, Ranić has improved us in an attacking sense. It's just more the other end of the pitch. We're having David De Gea to bail us out, which shouldn't always be the case.
Yeah, I do think that with defensive line was certainly a concern in the game, and it's certainly something that I think a load of Manchester United fans will definitely want to see be addressed in 2022, not just for the upcoming games, but certainly throughout the rest of the season. Reece, going to come to you about McTominay, because, you know, a lot of people are very questionable about what McTominay offers in this Manchester United team. Did you feel that the game against Burnley, we saw a little bit more about what he might want to do going into 2022 and beyond?
I think the first question you got to ask is, who is Scott McTominay as a football player? Because when he plays for Scotland, he plays the right centre back because he doesn't start in our midfield, and that, with all due respect, he doesn't get ahead of Gilmore or John McGinn. They play much better as a unit, so you have to slot him at the centre back because he's good at carrying the ball and he's got a good frame. When he plays for United, he plays either as a 6 with Fred, or he plays as a box-to-box when Fred doesn't play. I think the one problem is, do you want him for his versatility, which we got rid of Daley Blind for? That's why we got Daley Blind for. He was versatile. We got rid of him a couple of years ago. So we've now got McTominay promoted from the academy, playing as a centre-back or as a midfielder. What do you want McTominay to be? And I think that has to be the central focus. He needs to become a specialist in a position. And I think realistically, you have to play him as a box-to-box midfielder with someone who understands the number 6 role, that gives him the confidence to go forward. I absolutely adore Fred. I think Fred's a quality player. He puts a shift in. He gives us dynamism, but he doesn't give us control in that position. Van de Beek ain't going to get a game, with all due respect. There's something clearly there where he does not get a game, but he's a good technical player. Realistically, that means you've got to play Nemanja Matic. He gives us control in the midfield. But there's always the whole line about Matic can't play 2 games in a row. He can't play 3 games in a row. But you ever thought that Nemanja Matic can play 60 minutes, 3 games in a row? He can do that. Or you can play Nemanja Matic for 60 minutes in one game, then you can play him for 30 minutes in the second, and then you can play him for 45, 60 minutes in the third game. You can use him properly. At the end of the day, our best midfielder, if you're going to do it, has to include Nemanja Matic. And that's where I link back to McTominay. It seems he plays his best football with Matic in the midfield because it gives him the element of control and it lets him drive forward with his ball carrying ability. So that's the question. What is Scott McTominay? He's a quality player when he has a proper 6 beside him.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important. And I was really impressed to see McTominay sort of playing in that Lampard-style position in the Burnley game. He's sort of breaking from midfield to score that chance. It was a really, really good, tidy finish into the bottom corner. And I personally want to see more of that from McTominay in 2022. And you're absolutely right, Reece. For Scotland, he plays as that centre-back in a 3 that Steve Clarke plays. And I think that's a really intriguing role that he plays. He has that versatility in his game, but for Manchester United, is that going to be accepted not just by the fans but by Ralf Rangnick? It's certainly going to be an interesting next wee while to see what happens there. Stu, do you want to come in and have your... Sorry,
my
go Reece.
My only concern, though, just to wrap on that one, my only concern, though, is it's with him, he has a couple of good games, then he has a stellar performance, and then he goes missing. I don't think he has the consistency to be a starter. With all due respect, I don't think he has the consistency, and I don't know if he ever will. If he proves me wrong, great, but I don't think he ever will.
Interesting points from Reece as always. Stu, do you want to come in and have your say on McTominay?
Yeah, I mean, he's right. Reece is right, actually, because I did say on the review that he's had his one stellar game. He'll go missing now for the next 6 or 7 matches. And that's actually purely down to the fact he'll get played between an 8 and a 6. And that is his problem. Now, when you play against Burnley, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a meat and 2 veg style of play. It's a 4-4-2. We matched them up on a 4-4-2, which is something Ollie would never have done. And we did that. And that's what makes or made Matic stand out, because it's a very lethargic game in the middle. And we were attacked down the wings, if you remember the game. Lennon and what's his name? what's his name on the left?
McNeil.
Good.
Yeah, McNeil. I was going to say Charlie McNeil, but it's not. It's McNeil in it. And they were very, very quick down there. And that's why you saw the reintroduction of Shaw and Wan-Bissaka to kind of stop that that style of play. The thing about McTominay is he's got to be a box-to-box. He isn't going to be... I wouldn't put him as a starter at all. I don't think he's quite going to reach the heights of what it requires to pull on the 8 shirt, so to speak, of a Man United player. And I think Reece is right that Matic can play more than 2 games or 3 games in a row if we use him correctly. But the problem is we won't. And the problem is against Wolves, they'll be too energetic in the middle of the park for Matic. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see Fred come back in. And that is our problem. We're so weak in our deep lying midfield play. And I know you want to talk about the centre halves in a minute, and it actually connects. The problem that we've got in on midfield connects with an issue we've got at the back. And so whatever happens, if we do dip into the transfer market, we've got to get somebody who's able to play 38 games a season and is able to do and sit and hold. Somebody like a Basuma or someone like that. I quite like Brozovic out of Inter Milan, to be brutally honest. But, you know, Basuma, if we go someone like that. But that's the problem with McTominay. He's not quite going to make it. And Reece is right. That, you know, you have to answer the question with the question. What are you? You know, what is your problem? I mentioned this last season about with regards to Tuanzebe not getting a chance at United. And, you know, he's a reasonable right back. And players today, you've got to modernize their game. And they've got to take a bit of a risk now and again and almost try and become a specialist in a specific position. And if you're not making the starting 11 for whatever reason, because you're in and around 4 or 5 players in your position, you've got to look and see where else you can play. And Tuanzebe's now is having a real problem because he's popping off to Napoli now, isn't he? Which we don't want him to do. We need him in the Premier League rather than go to Italy. And I think McTominay is going to fall into this abyss, really, the old Bermuda Triangle of where do I go, where do I play? So it's an interesting question. That.
No, very much so. And I think I'm going to come to Andrew very quickly to finish up on this segment, but I quite like McTominay in the team. And I think when he does, he always has a big heart and he always puts a big shift in. But it's just all about, as you guys have both correctly said, it's about consistency. It's about that partnership. And tonight's show really is about partnerships, as we're really going to talk about. But Andrew, last point to you on McTominay.
Yeah, I'm just take the other guy's points. Like, he has good games and then he'll go missing. But I just say he needs that consistency now. And I mean, he's probably everything you want in the midfield. He'll complete a high number of passes, will rarely lose the ball, and also keeping the ball, and he'll progress the play. He's tireless in his work ethic, and also he's good getting back defensively as well. Like, he's putting the tackles in, trying to get the ball back from, and then also the capability. He can score goals as well, and I think those are the essential things he needs to operate in the second phase of play. But I think for him to do that, he needs that number 6, like Matic was doing. Like, just literally, Matic was sweeping from left to centre to right, and then McTominay would fill in when, you know, they'd have to go more defensively. So I think McTominay will make it, and he could be having one of those careers like Darren Fletcher, where I think Darren Fletcher's career was so underrated. He should have been, I don't know, more appreciated, like, by pundits and say probably by us fans a bit more for what he had done for us. Okay, like Fletcher, he wasn't playing every game, but like I say, in those big games as well, Darren Fletcher would step up as well. And I think McTominay, if you give him the chance, I think he can do that in time, but we'll have to see how he does on that. When he just needs to get that run of good games under his belt now.
Very much so. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree as well. And well, on the subject of partnerships, let's go and talk about the centre-backs, because obviously Bailly and Maguire started this game. Bailly did go off to be replaced by Varane. Obviously, Varane didn't have the best of games against Newcastle. Andrew, I'll come back to you first on this. Do United have to get a solid centre-back partnership if they're going to have a very good second half of the season, do you think?
Yeah, that will be definitely key to getting the top 4. I just think at the moment, top 4 is going to be a bit of a slog, like Tottenham and West Ham winning today. And okay, Arsenal lost to Man City, but Arsenal have been in good form since before that. So it's, let's say, yeah, attack can win you games, but also defense can win you trophies as well. And we need a solid centre back pairing. So is Maguire and Varane going to be that solid partnership? It's question marks over that. Would Lindelof and Varane be the better partnership? It's like, because I was a bit surprised to see buy-in, because I know he'd been recalled back from the African Cup of Nations. I don't know whether he actually went out there or he was just about to go, and then Rangnick said, "Oh, I'm calling you back." I don't know whether it's because Rangnick wanted to see what he'd be like in a game, and then can decide for his future. Because I know Bai's not obviously happy with the time he's had on the pitch at the moment. So I don't know whether he'll be still available for the Wolves game. So I don't know whether he might have a start again on Monday. But it's tricky. I don't know whether we can play a 3-man defence like Maguire, Lindelof and Varane. It did work. I remember the game away at Tottenham just worked perfectly. I mean, there was like a situation where Tottenham had the throw-in and Varane had been over towards where the throw-in was being taken, and he said he was going back towards the centre of the defence. Said to Maguire, "You get over there and get into that position. I'll stay in the centre." So I say there's defensive issues which Rangnick needs to sort out pretty quick. I mean, okay, we've conceded a few less goals, but we need to not concede any at all. That's why I was a bit disappointed. Even like when under Fergie's time, even if we won 3-4, 5-1, it'd be disappointing in the goal we conceded. It's like we shouldn't be conceding like sloppy goals. So we sort of got to cut out those little errors from the players as well.
I mean, ultimately, we talk about individual performances this season, but you guys have, well, certainly yourself, Andrew, has nailed it very early on. Defences win you titles and trophies, and, the great Manchester United teams of yesteryear had two very strong centre-back partnerships, haven't they? Particularly Vidic and Ferdinand of most recent times. Reece, going to come to you. I mean, obviously, Varane made the mistake at Newcastle. He was dropped for the game here. He came off the bench. Maguire's had a bit of an iffy season, to put it mildly. Were you surprised that Bailly came in? And what was your thoughts on Bailly's performance alongside Maguire before he got substituted because of the injury?
I can see why he dropped Varane. I don't think he dropped Varane purely for the lead up to the Saint-Maximin goal. I think he just dropped him because, all due respect, he's managing him better than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did. Like, no disrespect to reverting back to where we were, but he got injured. Solskjaer played him straight away, and what happened? Injured. Like that has to be managed better. And I think, with all due respect, I think Rangnick actually did the smart decision. Absolutely love Rafael Varane, but if you want to get the best out of Varane, you're going to have to manage him, because we can't afford him to get injured again. Like, we just can't afford it. One of the last shows I was on with you guys, it was when we done the summer signings, and I said one thing is going to happen is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I've been right so far, is the signing of Varane has exposed. I think I was on the show with Stu actually. My exact words were, the signing of Varane will expose the quality of our centre backs, because you can't just have one world class centre back like Varane. You need at least 2 or 3, and so far already, it's been proven, because everyone says Maguire's world class. No, he isn't. Yeah, he had a great end to the season last year, and he was. I'll have to admit, he was phenomenal at the Euros. But since then, he's been more of a detriment than a positive. It's hard to really pinpoint why. I don't think you can constantly refer back to Greece, but that had a personal impact. I think the fact he's United captain says, I don't think he commands leadership. I don't think he knows how to lead the team. And we saw that against Newcastle, where, yes, Varane was at point for the goal we conceded, but rather than actually try to stick a foot in, it stops Saint-Maximin. He's trying to organise his defence, pointing about the place. Put your foot in. If he put his foot in, Saint-Maximin wouldn't have scored. Like, he just left him hanging. And I think that's another thing. And against Burnley, I didn't expect Bailly to appear. I thought he would go off to play with Ivory Coast, enjoy himself. Unfortunately, I think he may have got injured over there, because it seems to be a recurring theme with Eric Bailly. He cannot stay fit, and I don't know why that's the case, but he was also at fault for the reason that the goal occurred. But Maguire, once again, is not covering his position. And I don't think Maguire has good communication with any of our centre-backs, and I don't think the other centre-backs have good communication with him. I think even though it was before my time, I've still watched the seasons back. Look at Pallister and Bruce, like the double winning season, 93-94. Fantastic partnership. They were glued together. Even the season before that, when we won the first Premier League title, Pallister would always cover Steve Bruce. Not that Steve Bruce was a bad defender, but Pallister had the pace to cover him. If we were up against a partnership at the time, it was 4-4-2. You always knew front two were always going to be fine with the back two. You know we could handle it, but there's always a good coverage. 98-99 season, Ronnie Johnson wasn't the best centre-back. Jaap Stam was the best centre-back in world football. You know that they would communicate well. Even Laurent Blanc, when he joined us, he was in the dwindling end of his career. We had Rio Ferdinand. You knew there'd be good communication. And obviously the best partnership, in my opinion, we've ever had was Vidic and Ferdinand. The constant reason for their success, obviously in Van der Sar and goal as well, was communication. And I look at it now, we haven't had a good partnership in years because they don't communicate. So I don't know if it's because Maguire wants to lead this defence in the right way, like because of his experience, but I don't think he knows how to lead a defence. I think he needs a leader beside him and take the armband off him. I don't think he fits United captaincy material. He needs somebody beside him that can lead a defence and let somebody else captain the team and just let him focus on being his first priority, which is being a centre-back. And I think that's the key. Without communication, we're not going to succeed. So it doesn't matter who makes the mistakes. He doesn't cover his partner well, and at times they don't cover him either. And that's why we are not that much of a force from the back forward.
So we've heard of leadership and communication there for Reece and Stu. Just to wrap up this segment, does that equate to you as well? I mean, there's also the caveat here that Victor Lindelof, we haven't even talked about him, obviously had that COVID positive test. We wish him well in his recovery. Where does he fit in all this?
So the problem you got with centre-half pairings is the quartet of your goalkeeper, your two centre-halves, and your defensive midfielder. That's your key areas. And the communication has to be from the goalkeeper to the two centre-halves and the central midfielder, and it's not happening. And it's no coincidence that our defensive issues started once Henderson got injured or came out the side and De Gea's come back in. Now, there's absolutely no two ways about De Gea being an amazing shot stopper. He's brilliant, but he's glued to his line. And the issues that you have as a centre half, and I can speak for this, as that's kind of my position, is the yardage behind you to your goalkeeper and the yardage in front of you to your central midfielder. Reece spoke about a couple of pairings at centre halves, but if you could think about Bruce and Pallister, Schmeichel is behind them, Paul Ince and Roy Keane were in front of him. You got Van der Sar behind Vidic and Ferdinand, and you have Paul Scholes in front of them. And so you've got the perfect quartet of players that could enable you to be a strong defensive unit. It's very, very solid. When you've got a goalkeeper that is glued to his line, as good as a shot stopper and as many points as he saved us this year, he's going to concede you points as well. Because as Reece has pointed out, and as Andrew's pointed out, Maguire's positional play this year has been very, very poor. Now, centre-half's positional play is dominated by two things: his own school of thought and the goalkeeper who can determine and see what's going ahead of him. And that's the biggest issue. And if you've got a 10 or 15 or even a 20-yard gap, A, you've got an issue with runners in behind, and B, it's very, very difficult with a stadium of 75,000 baying fans to get your instructions across. I need you to drop back 10 yards, etc. And same with your central midfielder. So that's the biggest problem we've got. There are individual errors, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately it gets compounded by that quartet. And that's why the importance of a defensive midfielder is not just to help the midfield, it's actually help the two centre-halves as well. Now, going back to Varane, I think Varane is the perfect partner for Maguire. But the problem is, and we all know this, and I think I raised it on the show at Reese's, that Varane has an issue with injuries. Now, he did have a good run of form And I think he played a good 5 seasons without getting injured at all, I think, with Real Madrid, didn't he? But to the latter stages of his Real Madrid career, he started to pick up those niggling injuries.
The 3 Champions League seasons in a row, I don't think he got injured once.
I don't think he did he? I think he was an ever present. And there's no doubt in his ability. And he was always gonna need time to come into the Premier League because, and I did make this point, and I'll make it again, when you're playing alongside Pepe or you're playing alongside Ramos, they are going to be the ones that are going to put their foot in, they're going to fight, they're going to do everything that you need to do that enables Varane to look the player that he is. And he's a wonderful talent, but he's got to kind of tuck in his skirt, really, and understand what the Premier League's about. And he's got to start being a bit tougher, a bit stronger. And we need Maguire to help him with that. So, in closing, it's the quartet we need to be concerned about, not just the two. But I would say this, Maguire at the minute is a very, very easy target for the fans. And I don't think that's fair. And going back to what you were saying, Grant, about Lindelof, it was Lindelof, Henderson, and Maguire. Yes, we had the issues, with Fred and McTominay, but it was the Henderson, Lindelof, Maguire, because Henderson would command his 18-yard box, which helped and assisted Maguire and Henderson. And that's the biggest issue for me.
It's certainly very interesting dynamics, and I think going into the Wolves game, which we're going to talk about next, these partnerships and this organisation of the team as a whole is something that hopefully in 2022 we'll see more of a positive frame of mind for Manchester United. Let's move on to talk about the Wolves game. We'll come on to talk about Ronaldo, Cavani, etc. as we come into this segment, because I think it's quite relevant here, because we're playing a Wolves team who haven't played throughout the Christmas period. They did have a game at Christmas. Their last game, incidentally, was that 0-0 draw against Chelsea on the 19th of December. They are currently 8th at the table, 13 goals scored, only 14 conceded. Andrew, this has all the makings of being a pretty tough game for Manchester United, isn't it?
Yeah, I say Wolves are notoriously tough to beat. I mean, the away game back in August when we went there, I mean, it was we were lucky to nick the 1-0 win. They were literally Pogba and Fred were in the midfield, and Wolves were just literally cutting through it and just getting on the attack. And then they had their chances to score, and I think De Gea in the second half, I remember pulling off I think it was a save that nearly just took it, brought it back from going over the line. So Wolves
did, yeah. That was the one, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think that made still.
That was the Trincao one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think so.
Trincao was on fire that day. He was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
didn't he get injured soon after that?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, what a shame, because he's a hell of a player, isn't he?
Yeah, and I remember that was Varane's first game as well, and he was he pretty much handled Traore pretty well. I mean, I think there was one moment where Traore looked like he was going to get him, but Varane just quickly recovered and got it sorted. And then obviously Greenwood popped up with the goal to say, it was like a smash and grab at Wolves. It was, but to say it's never an easy game against Wolves. And the start of the season they had that pretty bad run of form. I think it was the first 3 or 4 games they had the most shots at goal without scoring, but
69 shots.
Yeah, and Jimenez, he couldn't score either once he was back, but it seems to he's found the net since. But they're saying the ties the games against Wolves and notoriously low scoring. There's not much in it in terms of goals. I think the last few, it's always been 1-0s, 0-0s. So I'm sure the one back in the end of the last season, I think it was 2. Was it 2? No, 1-0 at Old Trafford.
We beat them 2-1 last game of the season. Yeah,
that was away. Well, I'm thinking the one at Old Trafford. I think that was Marcus Rashford scored the late goal.
Right to death.
Yes, yeah. So I just remember that. So they're saying Wolves, they've been in a good run of form. They've kept clean sheets in the last 5 of their 7 matches, and they're saying the only defeats they've had is at the hands of Liverpool and Man City. So they say we can't underestimate Wolves. They're going to come to Old Trafford wanting to make a statement, and a bit like Burnley, they're going to probably sit back and then just try and counter and just try and make it really difficult for ourselves. So I think we've got to be a bit like against Burnley. We've got to get on the front foot, and if we can score first, then that would settle us down even more.
I mean, one thing that I thought was really good in the Burnley game was Ronaldo and Cavani as a partnership up front. A lot of United fans wanted to see that partnership. Reece, do you think we'll see that against Wolves? Because I thought it worked really well in the Burnley game, but this is a very different proposition, isn't it?
Highly unlikely for me. I don't think you're going to see. I think you're going to see either Rashford or Greenwood get some pace in and right beside Ronaldo, because I just look at the defence for. I just look at their defence recently, and I think realistically you're going to have a quick player in there. All due respect to Cavani, he's a fantastic forward, probably the best pressing forward I've seen in a long time. Like, he's consistently the way he presses defence, but also the way he actually starts a pressure. Not just a press, but a pressure as well. Like, a differential between the two. He actually has that impact, but I just look and I think we're going to have pace in there. One way or another, I think realistically you have no other option but to do that, and you can bring Cavani on, or even Ronaldo. If he brings Ronaldo in the second half against knackered legs, he can do that. It's not a big deal. But I don't think you're going to see Cavani or Ronaldo together. No.
I think one thing that Andrew mentioned earlier on, and I think it was Sasha Gurianov who tweeted this, I'm pretty sure it was him. Wolves are playing in binary this year. They're either going in ones or zeros. And, you know, the last time they lost by more than one goal was away at Palace. And Stu, that shows you how strong Wolves are at the back, especially. They have such a good leadership. And we've talked a lot tonight about leadership, control, responsibility. That's something certainly Wolves have at the back, haven't they?
Well, look, you've got Connor Cody for a start. Now, and Andrew Wall will remember this, because we were talking, must have been 8 months ago, about certain players. And I've brought up Connor Cody up a few times, haven't I, Andrew?
You have.
not because he's an outstanding player, but it's the communication skills that are absolutely, I think, the best in the Premier League. He just constantly is dictating the play, constantly telling people where to go. And you've got, in front of him, you've got Dendoncker, who's got a lot of qualities. And you've got Neves. So you've got two solid midfield players. You've got a good, solid centre-half in Cody. Connor Cody is what you call your old school pro. He takes absolutely no nonsense. He's very, very similar to me and Tarkowski. Tarkowski took one in the face, didn't he, from Ronaldo. Ben Mee goes up, kicks him. Get on with it, pal. Come on. That's what football's about. That's what being a centre-half is about. And Connor Cody exudes that. Not the best footballer on the planet, but a real leader. Don't know too much about the goalkeeper, because obviously last season it's Patricio. This season it's Sarr, isn't it? Is it Sarr? I think it's called.
Jose Sarr, yeah. I think he's been their signing of, like, best signing in a long time.
He's decent.
He's a very good goalkeeper, yeah.
I think Grant's just mentioned it earlier. They've only conceded 14 goals, which is, I think, the second best in the Premier League, I think.
Yep.
So they're a tough side, but I mean, what you've got there is, or what you're seeing with Wolves is a manager being given a few months to get his rotation and to get his style of play in. Now, Lage is very, very similar. I think he was a Benfica B coach, and he started out with a 4-4-2. We started just playing a standard 4-4-2 system, and I talk about it a lot. People love the 4-2-3-1s and all this kind of bollocks, but football hasn't changed since its inception. You know, and sometimes you have to go to the old-fashioned ways to play football and win games of football. A larger split between a 4-4-2 and a 4-3-3, depending, and that's not just when they're out of possession, he won't play a 4-4-2. He'll play a 4-4-2 in possession, and he'll switch to 4-4-3 in possession. So he's a very clever and astute guy. I think it'd be a real tough game for us. I think for us, I think he's going to have to, they'd have to play a similar team, but you're not going to see Cavani and Ronaldo. And I'll say one thing about that, by the way. And I know, Andrew, you're in the stadium, weren't you? So I don't know what your thoughts are on this. But Cavani gave us his usual work rate, but he looked very subdued alongside Ronaldo, which to me was a bit of a worry, because I wanted to see what a Ronaldo Cavani partnership would be, and I just felt he wasn't overawed by him. That's not what I'm saying, but I thought he was a subdued player. Now, somebody says they're too similar in styles. I don't agree with that. Cavani's just He's just dynamite in the 18-yard box. He's even better in the 6-yard box. Andrew's heard me wax lyrical about him on many occasions about his positional play in the sense. So for me, if he does start with Ronaldo, and he won't do it because Martial wants to leave, Martial's the better foil for Ronaldo by far, because they're polar opposites. Rashford, we know, isn't playing so well. Greenwood, I thought Greenwood did okay, if I'm honest, against Burnley. I don't think he pulled up any trees for me. I think actually Greenwood's one of those. The fan base is split. Does he play as a 9? Absolutely not. He hasn't got the instincts to play in the box as a 9. But he's a wonderful talent outside the 18-yard box. He's starting to get a bit more selfish, but you can't do that unless you're a 9. You've got to be a bit more conciliatory with the ball when players are in better spaces, and he wasn't doing that, I don't think, against Burnley. That was my opinion. So he won't, because obviously Martial wants to leave, but I would play Martial. And I would play. Is Fernandez? Is a 3-game?
Well, that's where I was going to come into. Fernandez is back from suspension. You've actually really nicely come on to my next question here, because obviously Fernandez didn't play the game against Burnley, and I'll come back to you on this, Stu, because you brought it up. Do you think Fernandez coming back into the team changes that front four dynamic yet again?
Well, here's the interesting thing, because I've always advocated that Bruno's a better 10 or a better floating player. But the problem that he'll have, if he goes back to playing Wan-Bissaka and Shaw, you'll have this disconnect between Ronaldo, Bruno, and a gaping hole, whoever he plays in the middle. Because Bruno won't drop those 10 or 15 yards that you need when out of possession to help. He won't, or if he does come deep, he goes too deep to get the ball. He doesn't float in and around the middle third where we need him to pick up the ball and work his magic. So I think it's a really, really interesting one. I, like many, was surprised that Donny didn't play against Burnley, because, it was a straight swap for Bruno. But I'm not so sure Raniak's 100% sure whether he likes the 4-2-2-2, one for the better phrase, diamond system, or not, and who he plays in behind the strikers. Because if he gets that right, if he does put Ronaldo or Cavani as a focal point, and he gets the two floating players right behind the strikers and the midfield right, we would be so dangerous as an attacking unit. But you need workhorses to do it. And I think Andrew, in his very opening statement, made a really, really good point. We're starting to see a bit of dynamism. We're starting to see us on the front foot. But have we got the fluency? And I think that's the question. Are we collective? Are we strong? Have we got the fluency?
No, interesting points. And Andrew, I'm going to come to you on this, because, Fernandez could be an interesting situation in this game, because obviously he was suspended for that Burnley game. We've talked a lot there about there's a likelihood that we'll see Ronaldo and Cavani together. What do you think about Fernandez, potentially his relationship with Sancho? Where do you see that happening in the game against Wolves?
I'm just trying to think who Fernandez will come in. He's either going to be for Greenwood or Sancho. I'm just like, which one does Ranić drop?
I think Greenwood, to be fair.
I was going to say Greenwood. He had a good game. I was like, let's say he set up the initial goal for Mctomin, because I think he passed it towards. I'm trying to think who he passed it towards.
Ronaldo
laid it.
He kind of miscontrolled it, didn't he?
Yeah, and then Mctomin was like, "I'm having this. I'll let it towards goal."
Yeah.
Here's a question, gentlemen. Instead of making wholesale changes, why not just play Bruno up top with Ronaldo, just dipping off him as a centre forward?
Interesting. I mean, he has
that instinct. Yeah, as that instinct, and they're like, I don't think we necessarily have to make so many changes. I think the only one you're actually going to see that's obvious is obviously I think Matic has to come out. As much as I love Matic, I think we're going to need the energy in there against Wolves. I think you're going to need that. But I think necessarily up top, yes, you could get away with playing Rashford, or you could put Greenwood up there and put a 10 in that position. Like, you can just flex that around. Or you can easily just put Bruno as a centre forward, keep Ronaldo up top, and just let Bruno, because he's our most effective creator, just let him feed through Ronaldo or what he does best. Create chances out of nothing. I think maybe we have to consider Bruno as a front two, because I think I'm not going to say he is directly like that, but when I watch Bruno play, and Stu, you might agree with me on this one, he reminds me of, even though they hate each other, he reminds me of Cole and Sheringham in a way. Because
No, I thought that before.
Cole is a straight 9, and Sheringham, I always said he was a 9.5. He always played as a centre forward role. He was never as a main striker. I think we should consider that partnership.
He played off Cole, yeah, he did. He played slightly behind Cole, yeah, and he
Mm-hmm.
was more effective around the 18-yard box where Greenwood is, hence the 9.5. No, I agree with you on that. I think I'd be interested. I don't know what you think, Andrew, but I think the fullbacks will determine what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Once the team comes out, we look at the 2 fullbacks first, and I think you'll know what he does. I don't know.
I think Luke Shaw was probably warranted enough to start against Wolves. I thought he did nothing wrong. He was like getting the ball forward. I think he was trying to get crosses in towards the box. Wan-Bissaka, I'm like you get forward and then you get to the byline and then you pass it. But I'm like, where's Dalot? He'll try and get past the player and cross it in. I'm just thinking, Wan-Bissaka, just add that bit to your game, and I'll say you become better than Trent Alexander-Arnold, because that's the thing they say about Trent Alexander. He's great, go get him forward for Liverpool, but coming back, he
Can't
goes,
tackle,
he can't. He has defensive lapses, whereas Wan-Bissaka's the opposite. Great defending, but attacking wise, it's still not there yet. I mean, in terms of the front two, I agree with your point, Stu, about he looked a bit subdued on it. Just I don't know whether they had much time. I don't think they had much time in training anyway, from what Rangnick said from the Newcastle game. And say the only time that Cavani and Ronaldo really linked up well was the Tottenham away game. They literally, I remember Solskjaer saying, they'd spent all week together going. He told them saying, "Look, you two are playing up top together," and literally they've been 2 peas in a pod. So it's almost like you want to put them back together again. But I don't know whether he would start against Wolves. So he might favour Greenwood instead of putting Greenwood up top, but Greenwood and Ronaldo have not quite hit it off yet. Greenwood's sometimes he'll pull the trigger and hit the shot where he should be like, there's a better option here, and it's like I'm not with Fernandes at the moment. Do we play the same side as we did against Burnley? It's like on the Newcastle game. Well, Fernandes wasn't the only one, but a lot of whinging and moaning and.
That was terrible.
I know Fernandes likes to whinge and moan, but it seemed to have gone over the top. And I think every player was getting a bit frustrated with things not going right. But it just, I don't know. Cause I think Bruno might need a bit of time out of the side, because I mean, he has played a lot for us, and since he came into us, he literally started to turn things around, and obviously we've added a few more quality players. But say maybe you just need a rest, let some of the other players have their moment and build their form, and you can come in and just get back to what you're doing best and assisting and getting some goals. I don't think he's. I'm trying to think when the last time Bruno scored or assisted.
Well, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it'd be tough. I think it'd be a real hard game if we kept that starting 11. That would be my only worry. I think it'd be a tough
might
game.
Drop Matic and put Fred in, because Fred's like the workhorse.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes, like with Fred, he just keeps hold of the ball too long, and he tends to get caught out. Or like the Newcastle game, McTominay and Fred were like they're coming forward, but then no other player was coming forward or opening space.
That's a worrying thing for me. You say holding the ball too much. Fred does that, I agree. And I'm not scapegoating him, but I'm actually going to use another player that holds the ball too long, Maguire. Like, think of the examples against Burnley where he had, I think he had 16 touches of the ball, and then he decided to just pass it. He passed it to the right of him. I think he passed it to Wan-Bissaka, and then he pointed Wan-Bissaka saying, "Can you just pass it to Luke Shaw?" I was like, Luke Shaw was already 10 yards in front of you. Why didn't you just pass the ball? I think that's another thing for our team is we want to be about controlling the ball, and everyone always says Pogba slows play down, and rightfully so. Pogba tries to find an intricate pass, but he holds the ball too long. But I think you have to say the same thing about Maguire. He holds the ball too long. There's other players that do it. We need to be quicker in terms of instinct with the ball. Okay, basically you want 2 or 3 touches max. You don't want 10. That's why we couldn't do a Guardiola team, or God forbid we couldn't play like Liverpool as much as we like similar styles as what we've got. Like that's what we want to be. They don't hold the ball for 35 seconds and 16 touches. It's 2 or 3 touches max. The ball's gone within 5. It's instinct. I don't think we have that. So I think those players that hold the ball too long, they need to be told to either you speed the hell up or you're going to the bench.
Well, let me come in here because we're actually coming to the bit where we're actually picking our teams now, which I think is going to be very interesting time we're talking about this. I mean, one of the things that's interesting for me is obviously the Wolves haven't scored a lot of goals so far this season. So that's another interesting dynamic to talk about as well. It could be a very tight game as we've discussed. But let's have a think about our teams then. Andrew, we'll start with yourself. What would be your projected 11 in your opinion?
Obviously, De Gea would be in goal. There's no disputing that at the moment. Henderson's not going to be coming in.
No, he's not. He's not going to get in. Yeah, he's not.
Whether he's going to go on loan in the transfer window, or I don't think. I think Rangnick's told him you're not going to be sold before the end of the season at least. So De Gea in goal. Centre backs is probably going to go Maguire and Varane. I don't know whether. I don't know whether it was not, but I think he said after the game he was just tired. I think because he literally hadn't been playing.
Cramp, wasn't it? It was cramp, wasn't it? He said, yeah.
But I don't know whether they're going to... Because I don't know whether he was on the way to the African Cup of Nations and he just said they called him back, or whether he's on his way now. So Varane and Maguire in the centre-back. Luke Shaw will be at left-back. I think he did warrant enough to retain his place. The right-back is the... I will go Wan-Bissaka just for... Wolves can offer attacking threat, and we might need that defensive now at the right back because we don't want to get caught out. Lindelof sometimes has got caught out in games. Okay, he's great going forward, but Wolves are notoriously difficult to break down, so we probably need Wan-Bissaka for that. It's going to be Fred and McTomin in the midfield.
Yeah.
This is where the tricky one comes. Who's suitable? Say Fernandes will probably come back in. Ronaldo will be up top. It's just the last two I'm struggling with. I'm going to say Sancho and Greenwood.
Okay. I could see you struggling there, and I think that's in keeping with what the show's been about. It's getting that right balance in the team, getting the right quality across the pitch, getting the right relationships in there. Stu, I got the impression when you were talking to Andrew there, or listening to Andrew there, I should say, you were kind of feeling the same way.
Yeah, I think Andrew's right. I think Luke Shaw, it's going to be Wan-Bissaka. I always get the feeling it's Shaw, Bissaka, it's Tellez, it's Dalot. That's how I look at it. I think you're right. Pretty much. I can't see. I think Sancho's coming in. I think Bruno will come back in. It's going to be Ronaldo. It is going to be Rashford. It doesn't balance though, does it, with Greenwood for me?
Yeah.
It doesn't balance.
Let's see what Reese has to come up with, because this is interesting just to hear how tricky it is to pick this team, because, as we said, Wolves so notoriously tough to break down.
Because Wolves, just before you start, Reese, I was thinking about this just a minute ago. Wolves could actually go with 5 in the middle, couldn't they? Because
they did that against Chelsea.
They could bring Moutinho in, couldn't they?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking about. Moutinho, class act. Yeah,
he is. Yeah.
That's what was on my mind, because I was actually looking at our fixtures as well, and I was looking at what's our time frame between us and Villa. We play against Villa back to back, but we've got a decent break in between. We play the Monday, then we don't play them till the Saturday, so we've got a bit of break. So I was thinking what you will see is, I think you'll see maybe 2 or 3 changes for this game. So I'm going to go De Gea in goal. Okay. I am going to agree with the fullbacks. I'm going to go Wan-Bissaka and Shaw. I think centre back you're going to see. It will be Varane and Maguire. I think midfield. I think you probably will see Matic against Villa in the cup game. You won't see him in the league game. So I'm going to go McTominay, Fred in midfield. I'm going to actually stick with the same 2 wingers. I'm actually going to stick with Greenwood and Sancho. I think Sancho will play on the left, and I think Greenwood will play on the right. And I'm actually thinking it depends on how he does it. I think you will see Ronaldo and Bruno as a front two, or you'll see Bruno coming in for Greenwood, Rashford up top. So that's what I'm thinking. It's either Sancho, Bruno, Ronaldo, Greenwood, Ronaldo, Rashford, sorry, or it's going to be Greenwood, Sancho, Ronaldo, Rashford, Ronaldo, Bruno. But I'm going to go with my usual front four of Sancho, Bruno, Ronaldo, Rashford is what I'm going with. But I would like to see Bruno, Ronaldo as the front two. That's what I want to see.
It's a game of musical chairs.
Yeah, I love it. I love the comedy act.
It is a really strange one, because if balls do come and absolutely saturate the midfield,
yeah,
it's going to be very, very difficult for us anyway, because we don't play well against a saturated midfield. If they come and swallow us.
If he plays his midfield five, but he plays his midfield of Dendoncker, Moutinho, and Neves, we're in serious trouble.
We are there, yeah, because they're just Dendonker's absolutely fabulous player. He's a brilliant player.
He's such a physical weapon, and we know what Ruben Neves is like. He's a set piece merchant, but he's also a long shot merchant. And Moutinho is just a very good player that links the ball. Obviously, I'm not going to dissect Neves completely, because that's like me comparing him to Ward-Prowse, but that's what he does best. He does that really well. He does long shots and set pieces, but Moutinho is a fantastic set piece link as well. Like, we haven't scored a single corner all season, but at times we've also conceded a corner because we don't position ourselves well. And Moutinho has a fantastic delivery of a ball. I think if we do not have that organisation, I think we're in massive trouble. So, but just for the people that are watching this back, because there's a recording, I'll quickly sum this up now. It's De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Maguire, Shaw, Fred, McTominay, Sancho, Bruno, Rashford, Ronaldo.
He's got there in the end. He's got there in the end.
I think we went Greenwood, Ronaldo, didn't we?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It could be one
whoever plays, though. I just hope we have that when we have the ball. We don't take too much time. We get that ball flowing quickly, because if we don't, we're going to get countered so easily. And if Moutinho plays, we're going to get countered within a second, because he just plays it so quick.
Well, let's move on to give our predictions, because obviously we are very much coming towards the end of the stream. Stu, I'll come to you first, because you were chopping at the bit again there. So I don't want to lose you. So let's give you your prediction there.
I just wanted to just back up something quickly that what Reece was saying. I'll be very, very quick about this. When I was 8 years old, one of my first coaches split he drew a pitch and he split it up into segments. And Reece talks about moving the ball quickly. So he would tell you which segment you're in, and he would always say, we want the ball in, at your feet, within 3 seconds to the next segment.
Yeah.
Wherever you were. So, and that's how, when I was playing the game properly years ago, that's how I used to operate, in segments. So I'll get the ball and I'd move it, and I knew exactly where I was at any one time. So I just thought I'd mention that. Anyway, I'm going to go for...
I like that.
We're going for broke. 2-0.
2-0.
Yeah, we will win 2-0. And I am going to go for... I'm going to go for Fernandes penalty, because I think we'll get a pen, and Ronaldo.
It makes you think Fernandes is going to take the penalties. That's interesting, because I think Ronaldo took the last one we scored against Arsenal.
Yes, yeah. I agree. But I'm going to go Bruno to score.
Okay, Andrew, to you.
I was going to say, because as I said, Wolves are notoriously difficult. I mean, we can't be complacent against them. I mean, they've been well rested and, well, whatever shape in terms of the players they've got. So, but we've got to be on the front foot. But I just think if it's anything like previous games, I just think we'll probably just nick it by 1-0. I just can see just one goal in it, and hopefully it's to us.
And scorer?
Ronaldo. 1-0 Ronaldo. I can see him just like doing it again.
And Reece, to you.
Let's see. I'm going to go with Fernandes to get his 3 winges per game. I'm going to go Sancho to get an assist. Ronaldo to score a double, and a Wolves player gets sent off. 2-1.
2-1, Man United. I'm going to go 1-0, and just to wind Stu up, I'm going for Ronaldo to score for the penalty spot. So hopefully one of us is going to be right. So we'll see what happens.
I had forgotten about that. Yeah, Ronaldo has taken the last couple of pens, hasn't he? So
Yeah.
so I'd forgotten about that.
So I'm going to go 1-0. But we'll see. It's going to be a very tough game, I'm sure. But I'm sure it'll be interesting to watch, nevertheless.
I find the ultimate question is, how many posing moments are we going to see to wind him up?
Yeah.
Well, 2021 is full of surprises. 2022, I'm sure, will be even more of them, I am sure. Guys, it's been great to have you on tonight's show or this show when you're watching it. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks to everybody tuning in on All for United. We have Andrew, Reese and Stu. Great panel tonight. Remember to please like and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the socials. Go and check us out there. The guys will be back to review the show, or review the game, I should say, after the Wolves match. But until next time, thanks very much for tuning in. Come on, United. Let's hope 2022 gets off to a good start. Hopefully it's a much better year than 2021 for Manchester United. All the very best. Hope you have a great new year. All the best for 2022 and take very good care. Bye for now.